Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Commish Dish. I'm your co-host, co-commissioner, John Reed, at Can't Read Me on Twitter. I've been very active lately. Throw me a follow, throw me a couple of likes, why not? I'm joined today by my friend, my duo, my companion, Kirk J. Oliver. He's a staple of the Commish Dish and the Michigan, Miami, Mississippi Fantasy League. Kirk, how are we doing?
Good. It's good to be here, John. It's always a pleasure to be on the Commish Dish. Love talking to you. Love shooting the breeze. And we got a lot to talk about today. So buckle up, Buckaroos.
Buckle up indeed. And we're calling balls and strikes today, so you don't want to miss this. Run the intro.
Run it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kirk and John. Hope you enjoyed the intro. We're back. We're going to take you around the horn real quick, and lot of stuff happened this week. Huge power shift kind of in the league, and we'll kick it right off with sort of surprise performances from two of the kind of people who we all thought were shitters. Good weeks. One had a better week, obviously. You want to lead us into this, John?
I mean, dude, the Sheriff, every time you doubt him, he comes back stronger. I can't even believe it. I predicted the Sheriff. Don't forget, I know our viewers might have forgotten. I predicted the Sheriff to go 0-14 for the year. And what is he? 3-2 and drops 177 this week? Are you kidding me? Outrageous scoreline. Justin Herbert, massive production. Devontae Adams, hitting his form of last year. He's capable of these games. He showed out today. And I mean, am I a little bit scared of this team? Yes. Who knows with the Sheriff? He's riding high. He's down there in Mississippi. I don't know, man. I'm worried.
Let me say this too. The Sheriff traded for Leonard Fournette. What a beautiful trade. Good trade. Now he has, he's not like the best RB1 or anything like that. No one's saying that, but he hadn't scored 20 points from his running back position all year, and Leonard Fournette had 21 this week, and that addresses like such a major need for him. And now he's sitting there 3-2. He's riding high. Just smoked the league this week. 177, highest point total of the year so far.
Except for Dev.
No, he edged out. Oh, did Dev? Oh, he got 181 this week. My bad. I was looking at it before he got there, but yeah. So second highest point total of the year. So crazy week, dude. Incredible. And honestly, like, I know Damian Williams isn't a long-term solution, but if he could find something there, I don't know. Like, do we stop laughing at the Sheriff and start saying, all right, like, welcome.
Kirk, it might be time. Like you said, it's the running back positions. It's held him back. His RB1, RB2 has been awful all year long. Great decision benching Miles Sanders, long overdue. But let's face it, he has a pretty good quarterback. His wide receiver core is very solid. And then his tight end, Travis Kelce, best tight end in the league.
Yeah, you
that's a
could argue he
recipe.
has the best wide receiver in the league. I don't. He has some good players on this team.
He does.
So yeah, I think I'm right. I'm still riding with my what was it, week 2 or 3 prediction that like the Sheriff was going to make the playoffs. Still
Yeah.
riding with it. Now let's flip it over to the opposite end of the spectrum. Best week of the season by far for William Prego. 136, solid point production. Um, I guess the bummer is you lose this game. Um, and all of the other teams who are at the bottom probably scored more. So you also didn't gain really that much ground points wise. Um, and yeah, I don't know. And then I look at his running backs, it's like Hunt and Hubbard. I don't know. Maybe you can rely on Hunt this year, but um, I don't know. Hubbard's obviously a rental. Then he trades for Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen had 2 catches on the last drive of the game. He had 0 points up till that
Yeah.
point.
I mean,
So
that trade is looking worse. I mean, I thought it was bad at the beginning. He gave up Jonathan Taylor, and I've said my philosophy about trades in this, and it's the same Max Kellerman has for the NBA. Whoever gets the best player wins the trade. Jonathan Taylor was already like, even though he wasn't having a great year, I'll give you that. Everyone kind of predicted that Jonathan Taylor would probably turn around to some degree. Had an excellent game last night. And now we're looking at Adam Thielen, 6 points, and it all came in the last drive. I mean, Adam Thielen is a great player, but is he the same fantasy weapon he was a couple years ago? No, I don't think so. Justin
and
Jefferson
also,
there.
I mean, like Jonathan Taylor is a running back. Like you need running backs in this league. Like there are a lot of replacement wide receivers. Um, and like Chuba Hubbard, I mean, is probably gonna drop off significantly in production when McCaffrey comes back. So I don't know. I'm a little confused by his moves. I guess he has AJ Dillon. That's some good running back depth, but
Yeah.
we'll
Although
see.
Lee
0
Madison,
and 5. I think Prego is kind of out of it this year. We'll see what happens.
yeah, I was going to just
Anything
quickly
else?
say Madison on the bench is a surprise move. I think Dalvin Cook might have been kind of a game time decision, but if Alexander Madison's playing, you start him. So I don't know what happened there, but
Especially against the
Chris will
Lions.
put him over it. Yeah, against the Lions. I mean, it's easy points. He's projected
Although
19.
Alexander Madison did have a almost game-losing fumble had it not been for uh, fate intervening. Um, should we kick it over to Josh and Mark?
Yeah, I was gonna say more on the Lions and fate for you, Kirk, in a couple moments here. Yeah, so Mark versus Josh. I actually predicted this game almost to a T. I think I had Mark winning by about 5, wins by 7 here. I mean, let's start on Mark's side. What did you notice about Mark's team? What did you like from it this week?
Well, like again, Mark has all these dudes that like in the draft I never even considered, and they're all good. Like Jamar Chase, like Marquise Brown is like kind of emerging. Again, we talked about Cordell Patterson is like the satanic version of Adam and Eve. So yeah, I mean, solid squad. I don't love this team to be honest with you. But I think like it's gonna maybe compete for the playoffs. I don't know. I'm not blown away by anything, personally, but I think like it's a well-rounded squad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I actually think this team has probably exceeded expectations pretty significantly. Granted, Dalvin Cook and Calvin Ridley have not been playing.
That's
I mean,
true.
they haven't even been playing, but he does have them on the bench. His replacements have been good. Cordell Patterson, what a surprise. I thought he was a wide receiver, and all of a sudden he's a running back, and he's doing fairly well. So that, I mean, typical pickup right there. Good start. Brandon Cooks kind of having a resurgence down week this week. We'll
I think
see. I mean,
down
this
week last 2 weeks though.
terrible. Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust Brandon Cook's outlook going forward. But I mean, he does have Calvin really on the bench. Could see maybe it turns things
Yeah,
around.
yeah, you're right. When he gets these guys back from injury, he's going to be good, and he's sort of doing the opposite of me. He's winning with his replacements, and I'm losing with them. And oh, he's got Kittle on the IR. When does Kittle come back?
Kittle, I'm not sure. I don't actually remember him getting hurt. Let's take a quick
I
look
didn't
here.
see that either.
At least the next 3, the team believes the title will be able to return. So week 7, he'll be coming back. or a
All
week.
right, so 2 more weeks, right? So
Not too bad.
yeah, I think he's gonna surge at the right time. Solid team and huge win over Josh. You want to flip it over to Josh's side and talk about maybe there are some concerns now.
Yeah.
He kept talking about how this team has no chance of missing the playoffs, and I still think they're gonna make the playoffs. But I guess should we talk about like Tyreek Hill, like and the Chiefs, and like the fact that teams are just like saying you won't pass to Tyreek Hill, like you won't take the top off us, and the Chiefs seem, despite having so many weapons, just completely like stubborn and refusing to throw the ball less than like 40 yards downfield. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. If Jared Goff was in that offense, they would be absolutely rolling down the field because he won't throw the ball past 10 yards. I don't understand it. Like I don't
Yeah.
get it, but
I
until they
mean, Tyreek
show that they're
Hill.
going to throw the ball short, like then teams will not give them the top. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
They're pretty much doing what the Eagles gave the teams a blueprint, but other teams have actual defenders, so they can do it. I mean, that's more or less kind of what's happening. Yeah, you're right. They said Tyreek, I mean, they have a bunch of speedsters too, so they don't have the most refined route runners on their wide receiver. I
but
mean,
you
Tyreek
got
Hill.
Kelsey, right? I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say. So you have Kelsey, but dude, I mean, he's been like he draws at least for the Eagles. He drew Darius Slay, and Darius Slay shut him out. So if they have a good cornerback or a really talented linebacker who's good in coverage, maybe you can try to neutralize Travis Kelsey to a degree. And then they have no mid-range passing game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down. That's a lot of your running games. Now you're relying on Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon, who has injury concerns. I don't know, man. I'm skeptical on the Chiefs. I think you're right. Teams are shutting down the long ball, and that's their bread and butter.
I'm not concerned about them long term, but I am concerned about like Tyreek Hill's production here in the next few weeks because I think that even like until the Chiefs adjust, first off, he's not going to see anything else. And then even when they do adjust, like teams might still stick with that just because like I mean, if you let him take the top off, they're unbeatable. So I don't know. I think you'll see the Chiefs get on the right track. I like Andy Reid. I think he's like one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback in the NFL still. I think they'll figure it out. Um, but yeah, I think I'm a little bit more concerned about like Tyreek Hill's explosive capabilities. Not to say that he won't explode. I mean, he's super talented, but I don't know.
Yeah, man. I
You have
mean,
any
he's had 2 crazy weeks, and then he's had 3 very pedestrian weeks below, I'm guessing, the starting average for wide receivers, which I think you and I both said if you're not getting at least like 16 points from your wide receiver, he's gone under 16 points 3 weeks already. So,
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, one is like a 15-point game. That's not bad, but you just kind of need more from him because of where you got him.
yeah, I was
And
gonna say you need
um,
you need production from him. And then I was gonna say on other things, Dawson Knox. I mean, what an excellent pickup from Josh. He's usually pretty crafty on the midseason additions, and no different there. Dawson Knox, excellent. I mean, I think he could be very good. We'll see if he has like the staying power to be one of the top tight ends this year in fantasy, but he looks great right now.
yeah, I agree there. But again, there's more concerns popping up than I think there are positives because, like, what's going on with Keenan Allen? Like, he's kind of wide receiver two now in San Diego, or not San Diego.
Sure,
But
just because you have Mike Williams doesn't mean Keenan Allen's all of a sudden wide receiver too.
I
But you're
mean,
right.
I
You're
just don't
right.
think the production's been there from what you'd expect this year. And then, like, Mixon had a pedestrian day. And I kind of think Aaron Jones is like a 13-point guy unless he scores touchdowns. So I don't really know. Like, I don't know. I think there are some concerns here that maybe we weren't talking about when we had Josh on. Um, but I still think the team will make the playoffs and everything. But I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical, more skeptical
That's
about them.
fair. And I think, people who tuned in last week, I was saying the same thing. It's boomer bust for Josh's team. And, he scored 145. A couple players boomed, and a couple players had very below average weeks.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've grown to expect. But do you want to move on here? Do you have anything else to say?
No, that's good. We can move on to is it Will and Santi?
Yeah, man. All right. Lead us in. Lead us in.
All right. Well, I'll talk about Santi's team first because rough week for Santi, obviously. The injury bug is biting hard. He's got Carson injured. Um, He's got Saquon injured. Has he got any other injuries here? Let me check here real quick.
Scrolling down.
Landry's injured. Shepard's injured. I mean, those guys, I mean, who cares about them? But like Saquon and Carson right there hurts so much, you know. Yeah, I don't know. And Stephon Diggs is like taking a huge step back this year, kind of. I don't really get it. I think he'll return to better numbers, but I don't think he'll recover like enough. And then as for TJ Hawkinson, like this week, he wasn't even like targeted. Like usually they target him and he's just blanketed, but they didn't even look his way this week. So I don't know. I'm starting to have some serious concerns about him. I don't know. The Lions offense is so unbelievably bad. Like one of the most incompetent offenses I've seen. There's just no like skill at any position.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Santi might be kind of the biggest downward trend here this week. And that's rough. I mean, it's not his fault completely, like, but it's the way it is, kind of. That's how fantasy is. And it's also brutal because he should have more wins, kind of, for how he's played.
Very close losses.
He couldn't afford this loss because of his rough kind of schedule, and now like the loss comes, and obviously that just hurts.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts there on Santi?
I was gonna say quickly. I'll add. I think I was wrong about Hawkinson. I should have listened to the Lions offense, man. I thought he was going to have a breakout year. I pulled up earlier. His last 3 games have been just a nightmare. And now he's not even getting the targets. So I don't know what he can expect moving forward going there. And you're right. The injury bug is just brutal here. Saquon Barkley, I think you had those concerns. And actually, Chris Carson, to a degree, misses a lot of games.
He did roll the dice there.
He did.
And yeah, like you'd like to see, I think you would expect maybe an injury from 1 or 2 of them, like at different points in the season. But like losing them both at the same time is tough. And man, Saquon, they're expecting Saquon back next week. I read, like,
yeah,
no way.
Yeah,
I saw that injury, dude. Like Russell Wilson's down for 6 weeks because his pinky hurts. Like, I don't think Saquon's coming back from that.
Yeah, too soon.
Was the size of my torso. It was disturbing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Saquon is kind of superhuman. I mean, his legs are tree trunks, but I agree. I mean, watching that injury, I don't think there's any chance that he plays next week. But do you want to move on to Sommer's team?
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this was a fluke performance. And that might sound like a legit like asshole thing to do, but I'm actually serious here. And I don't mean to completely derail his team. He had a nice week, but I mean, both of his running backs scored 2 touchdowns apiece. Cortland Sutton went for 25. I just don't see that happening very often. So yeah, nice week, 150. And I think he probably is going to average around 130 for the rest of the year. And I think he's a playoff team, but I would pump the brakes on, I think there's kind of a general consensus in the league right now that Will Sommer is like coming on. And like, I just want to pump the brakes on that a little. I'm not saying his team is horrible, but I do think this was a bit of a fluky performance. And maybe you expect more from Terry McLaurin, but like I don't expect 33 points from Austin Eckler, even though he is a really good running back. I mean, he actually had 3 touchdowns last week. I mean, that's not gonna. I mean, he might score a lot of touchdowns this year, but that's not gonna happen every week. So if you take that away, that's what? I mean, that's 18 points gone. So even if you give him 6 back, that's not 32. So I don't know. I would just pump the brakes a little bit. I think that there is kind of, it's easy to jump here and say this team is back to Will doing old tricks and all that, but I'd pump the brakes, honestly. And I'm not trying to be like a jerk here. I seriously mean that.
Fair. And I mean, this is a really good disagreement between us. I really like this team. Austin Eckler, I have him in another league, and the fact that it's PPR, our league, I think is a massive difference because Austin Eckler gives you such significant upside in the pass game. He'll catch a lot of balls. And then, 32, 3 touchdowns is kind of a crazy week. He scored 29 last week, 22 the week before, 22 the week before. he's a solid running back. I mean, he's going to
No, no,
finish
no. I don't mean to
running
say
back
he's not
five.
a. I'm not saying he's not a good running back, but I don't think
Yeah.
this explosiveness kind of that you're seeing from him is what you're going to see very often. But I do think he'll be
Okay.
around 20 every week.
Yeah, that's fair. And
Because I
then,
think that what I expect from Austin Eckler in a PPR league is like a consistent 20 points. You know, I rate him as an RB1, but I think when you get that explosion from him, it's pretty rare in my experience. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a misconception I have, but I've never thought of him as like a red zone back or anything. So
yeah, well, that was some of the debate about whether or not he would start getting those red zone touches and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. So, well, moving along, Gibson, I think is, having a little bit of a resurgence here, a bit of a shaky start on the beginning of the year, kind of coming into his own. That said, Terry McLaurin kind of takes a step back. I think you'll probably see fluctuations between those two. If they're down, if game script goes the right
yeah,
way, you could have Gibson or McLaurin going off, but maybe not the other.
I think I agree with you. I think you're actually going to see McLaurin do better just because I don't think the Washington football team is very good this year. So I think they'll be
The
playing him behind
defense
a lot.
is, yeah, the defense I thought would be one of the top units in the league, and it's one of the bottom right
I
now.
think they have like a really rough schedule going forward too, like Chiefs, Bucks, like just a nightmare schedule. Um,
Yeah. Oh, Packers
Chiefs,
too.
Packers at Denver, Bucks at Carolina, Seattle, Las Vegas, Dallas.
Yeah,
I mean, that is a rough schedule, man.
that is a rough schedule.
Especially for a running back. So, I mean, I don't think Antonio Gibson. Again, I think Antonio Gibson is a good running back. Like, I'm not saying Will's team is bad. Let me clear that up. I still think this team is a playoff team, but I think that there is going to be some people that are thinking this team is one of the top 3 teams right now, and I would just caution you. I would
Yeah.
just caution because I don't think you're going to see this very often. Um, but I mean, Will is a resourceful guy. He might find other answers, but I don't think he can lean on like Cortland Sutton, Mike Gesicki all year. Even James
That's
Robinson, I've made my thoughts clear on him.
yeah,
So
you have. You definitely have, and I think you're dead wrong on that. I think James Robinson is going to
I
keep
stick
proving you
with it.
wrong. Hey, you'll stick with it, but I mean, so the in his defense, so I think this is probably the last word on Sommer's team.
Go
I
ahead.
really like the running back. I like the running back trio he has. I think there's a ton of upside there. If he can
Yeah.
get wide receiver 2 production consistently, maybe it's from Sutton, maybe it's from Higgins or Pittman. One of these players, if they can really take a step, I think this team is clearly probably top 2 in my
You
opinion.
know what? I'm with you that the biggest like missing spot is wide receiver 2 here. Um, I wouldn't say it's a top 2 team hands down with a wide receiver 2, but I think depending on the emergence of Jerry Judy, like he's going to come back before the playoffs, I think. And man, I really like him as a player. Um, so I think if he comes back and is good, then you might be looking at top 2 team here with Sommer. Um, I don't mean to like disparage him. I'm just saying I think this performance was a little bit above his pay grade right now. You
Yeah, I
want
mean,
moving on to
yeah,
the
that's
next?
fair. Let's are you okay moving on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. So we got Dev versus Jack Martelli. And I can't tell you what I saw. I was sitting in class, I was kind of paying attention, kind of not. I see 76-yard touchdown, Jonathan Taylor, and I just started clapping. Like, let's go, Martelli. Wow. I mean, all right, let's start with Martelli then, because this guy finds ways to lose like no other, and it makes me so happy to see it unfold. And this week too, I mean, wow, like his team blew up. There's no denying 160. That should win almost. I mean, who would he's
This is
lost
about the best his
15?
team could play. I think you could say
And
if
he
Kyler Murray
lost.
got 30, that would be like literally the best his team could possibly play. And if you add, John, would you just scroll up and add 20 points to the total? It's not enough.
No, it's not.
It's not enough. So even if Jack had literally had like the best possible week for him, like he would have lost, I think. Like the only person who underperformed is Murray. Like I guess Fant had 5, but that's like what's 3 points. So I mean, literally, like I don't know. I think that's like crazy. Um, and we're gonna talk about fade a little bit when we get to May. I have a whole statement prepared here, John. But I think like this is not so much like random occurrence. This is like he did something here.
Yeah.
Um, he did something. I don't know what, but man, rough one. You know what though? Maybe some good news. Like Kamara really went off. Um,
Did.
and Hopkins got the 20. I mean, honestly, you'd like to see Hopkins get the 20 like almost every week, but
Should, yeah.
um, DK had a good week. Evans had a good week. If he can kind of sustain that, even Daryl Henderson got way more involved in the run game than he has in the past. Um, so yeah, I don't know, like good signs. I don't know if you can expect that to continue based on how the season has gone, but you need it to start at some point. Um, Jack's already talking about getting in on the points differential thing.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be a clause where if you don't win a single game, you don't get in. But
I mean, yeah, that is fair.
um, let's kick it over to Dev's team here.
I was just say, if I can add a quick word on Jack's team,
Go
I
ahead. Go
didn't
ahead.
I didn't quite get to break it down.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I thought that this, like you said, is one of the best weeks he can have. But if there's ever such a thing as a moral victory, this was it. Because I mean, dude, 160, his players went off. Kamara's looking like the Kamara of old. And I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, he got that stack, and I'm sure he probably texted Sommer and said, "Oh, dude, like, I got this stack." Like, you know how he talks. It drives me crazy, dude. But
Dude,
yeah,
what
he
it's
thought
funny
that.
too is the Cardinals are having like a way better year than anyone
Yeah,
expected, and
yeah.
it's not working still.
No, which is just great. But I mean, that's part of it though, is Kyler Murray is spreading the ball around a lot. Like he's throwing it to Kirk. He's got AJ Green there now. I mean, he's got a lot of weapons. So
Rondale Moore,
yeah, Rondell
yeah,
Moore.
he's so talented. They've got a lot of weapons. Yeah, I think I don't know. I still don't think like I expect anything from Jack's team, even with this performance. But nice
Yeah.
work, I guess.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll give you a golf clap, but at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. And
Honestly, I would argue this is still not as painful as my loss, but I guess
no,
we'll
I
get there when we
mean,
get
dude,
there.
the game was over in the first quarter of Monday Night Football. That's
Yeah,
to a
we'll get
degree.
there when we get there. We'll get there when we get there. Let's talk about Dev.
Dude,
Um,
if I
you got
can,
anything for him?
I'm very scared of this team, man. I think I disrespected them, and this was kind of Dev saying, "All right, here I am, best team in the league. I might not have the best record, but I'm one of the dogs." And dude, Derrick Henry and Harris is looking like such an elite stack. Harris gets the ball like an absurd amount. Really handed it to the Broncos. That's a good defense, but I mean, he's involved in the pass game a lot more than I thought he would, maybe foolishly. Jonathan Taylor trade looks like a genius. I mean, what a fleece of Prego. And having that is, I mean, that might be the best running back. I mean, that has to be the best running back trio. Henry, Harris, and Taylor. I
I
don't think
think there's no argument there.
yeah.
But
And then Kyle
go
Pitts,
ahead.
dude, also like going off. And
That's
I
a
mean,
good
between
sign.
those, that's a great sign. If Kyle Pitts is going off, this team is deadly. And AJ Brown and Cooper both had kind of, I mean, Cooper did fine, but AJ Brown down week, kind of a down season. See if he bounces back. But if you score 180 with your wide receivers combining for 21.8 points, I mean, hats off to you, dude. You got a scary team.
Yeah, dude, this team is really, really good at every position except wide receiver. I mean, let's see about Kyle Pitts. Obviously, that's also 1 week, but like I don't know, like he's got to find a wide receiver to go in there because I mean, if AJ Brown keeps this up, it's just a disgrace to the rest of the players on the team. Honestly, like you, can, I mean, you just can't be doing that. You just can't. He had a shot at like 200 this week. Like that's not a wide L1 production right there. So I don't know what the hell like is going on with AJ Brown and the entire Titans. Like that's a
Titans.
Jacksonville secondary. Like
Yeah.
they're also in that Jacksonville's in that game for a long time.
Yeah.
That's an Urban Meyer led Jacksonville. That is like the most incompetent organization in the NFL right now. Like bar down, like hands down, the worst organization in the NFL right now. You can say the Lions, but like, dude, it literally took God's intervention to beat us 2 weeks. So I'm not going to roll with that. I think the Jags are the worst team in the NFL, and the Titans scraped out a win against them. And the Titans are supposed to run away with that division.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about AJ Brown, but
I am
Yeah,
as
I don't know.
well.
I think the rest of this team is stacked. I think Devin's looking really good still.
Yeah, I mean the bench I'd probably say is the only thing, but he kind of sacrificed, I think, some bench pieces to go get Taylor, which is why you have depth to make moves like that.
Yeah,
So
I think maybe needs to think about getting a wide receiver, but even if he stays as it is, he's looking good.
yeah.
Marquee
All
Mayer,
right.
yeah.
Oh man.
Let me take us in here, John. Let me introduce us here. I just want to read something here. Um, obviously, game was a painful one for me. 129-93 going into Monday Night Football, playing Mark Andrews, whose season high was 15, and Justin Tucker, whose season high was 11 or 13 or something. So if they both had their season highs, I would not have lost the game. Justin Tucker gets what, like 6?
3.
3. Because they didn't even kick extra points. So he gets 3. Mark Andrews gets 42 points. Absolutely demolishes May. And I lose in heartbreaking fashion. I just want to read a little thing here. I don't know if you're familiar with this, guys. I'm not the most religious man, but I've had something of a religious awakening of late. There's a story about a man from the region of Uz in the Old Testament, the Torah for our Jewish friends. I think only Josh is Jewish, but still. The man's name is Job, and Satan, he comes to God and he says to God, or God says to him, this is one of my best people. Look at Job, what a righteous man. And Satan says he's only righteous because he's so blessed. Let me take away his blessings, and we'll see how righteous he is then. And so Satan takes away, he kills his family, he gives him sickness. Job's friends are saying, yo, dude, you suck. That's why this is happening to you. And his wife begs him, curse God, And Job says, God giveth and God taketh away. And he fucking rides it out, boys. And Job is rewarded. I think we see a clear parallel between myself and Job in this story, in that I'm one of the best football minds. I'm one of the most intelligent people in the league, obviously. And the fantasy gods are testing me. They're saying, look, like, God giveth and God taketh away. And if I bear out the storm, if I ride through it, things are going to be looking good for me on the other end. This loss will insert steel into my spine, boys. We will come back stronger with our heads up. We will not fucking bow down. We will get healthy. We will take things week by week. Forget the record. Whatever the record is at the end of the season, forget it. Every week, we're going to be a tough out. That's the mentality in the locker room right now. That's what we're doing. And that's all there is, boys. Any thoughts there, John?
I'll have to say on my bingo card for Commish Dish, a extended metaphor of you and Job from the Old Testament was not on there, but man, I loved every second of it. And dude, it's not only fantasy, man. The Lions are just absolutely testing you.
Yeah. It's sort of sports in general for me. Michigan football looks good right now, but we all know they're going to lose to the Buckeyes. Just because I'm a fan. But hey, we ride or die. So, honestly, I'm actually pretty confident in my team. I love my wide receivers. I like Swift. I think Waller will bounce back. If I can get a flex play, I'll be good when McCaffrey gets back. So, obviously, I'm in a hole. So, I don't know if I can get out of it, but I do think I have a good roster. Thoughts on my team, and then we can.
Yeah, no, I think you talent wise, you still have one of the best rosters in the league, and I do think over the course of the season, it's a long season, and Christian McCaffrey, I guess, is going to be back this week. Is any word?
Yeah, he is going to be back this week, John. That's what they're saying, at least. I could see them not playing him. I don't know who they're playing. They obviously overlooked Philadelphia though, because he was totally ready to go. Like he was in full pads. Like he would practice like every practice the whole week. and then they were like, "Yo, we're not gonna lose to the Eagles," and then they lost the Eagles. So
They
that's a bit
did.
embarrassing. Who do they got next? Minnesota. I think Minnesota is a pretty good football team. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I think they're
But I
they're gonna
mean,
need him, to be honest, but we'll
yeah,
see.
I think that's clear now that they obviously need McCaffrey. The offense goes through him, and I mean, even DJ Moore was getting teed up on because who else is there to throw to?
He's just
Robbie
such a special
Anderson.
player because
He
like
is.
he can take what most players are getting like 4 or 5 yards on an open space, and he just turns it into like a first down. It's just he does so many little things right.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's a fun player to watch when he's on the
versatile,
field
yeah.
too. He's very
So
shifty, very quick. But yeah, like I said, I mean, McCaffrey gets inserted there. You got to find yourself a flex. Maybe Emmanuel Sanders. He's had, I can't even believe he's still in the league. I think he's like 55 years old,
dude,
but
he's so old.
killing it.
Although, again, I also am a little bit concerned about Sanders. I guess I probably shouldn't say this, but as he's my player, but like I think he had four catches, and two of them were like 20-yard touchdown catches. So, I mean, I don't know. He's getting some good looks, but it's kind of I think he's kind of as the Bills offense goes, he goes. So,
Fair.
you want to swap over to your team here? Good week for your guys. Although some troublesome news.
Yeah, dude, two bad injuries mid game as well, which is that's just killer because you start a player like Russell Wilson in his floor. My minimum I expect from Russell Wilson week in, week out is probably 15 to 17. So he comes under that. Then I was like, oh, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like I need probably 30 from him, maybe 20 to stay competitive in this game because I mean, things were not looking good. You had Zach Moss, you had a big lead, and I was stressing, man. And I think I told you and I exchanged some fiery text, not necessarily mad at each other, but saying, I think I said, you got very lucky I had 200 players. Then you retorted with some nasty comments there. But
Yeah, a little bit of anger because you were still going to win the game at that point. I thought you were going to win. Then I kind of opened up the lead, and even I thought I was going to win. But I wasn't. Let me just say for the record that I was never cocky about winning this game. It's not like I went and
that's
was like,
true.
"Oh, I won this game" to John, and then no, I literally was like, "Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's very possible you win." I literally was not tempting fate at all. Um, John texts me during the middle of the game and says like, "Oh, you're so fucking lucky," and I was like, "Dude, you're still gonna win the game." Um, man, dude, if Lamar Jackson just reaches the ball over the end zone, I'm maybe in that game. I
Yep.
don't know. It's a rough one.
Sorry, I'm quickly going to my Twitter here because my goodness, did I just create this on myself? All right, if I can draw your attention to Matthew Berry sending this out, Monday Night Miracle. He goes, what do I need? And I say, I need 37 points from Justin Tucker and Mark Andrews. And what does Mark Andrews goes out? 42 points, man.
On his
He
own.
comes,
He didn't need
he
Justin
puts
Tucker.
the team on his back. Justin Tucker was a non-factor because the Ravens went down immediately to Carson Wentz was playing fairly
They
well
were down 16 the whole game. So
in
they
the
needed to
blink
pick
of an
up.
eye. And all of a sudden, I look again and I am right back in this thing. I turn on the game. Mark Andrews, second touchdown. He gets the 2-point conversion as well. And I FaceTime Kirk and I say, Kirk, suck it. That's what I tell him because I could not believe I came back. But yeah, thank you, Mark. That's all I can really say. In terms of the rest of my team, I'm not feeling good at all. Lost Russell, lost Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tony Toe Tap is now my flex, so we'll see how that goes. I don't feel good about that in the slightest. And then Sam Darnold is my starting quarterback. That's just unfortunate right there. And also unfortunate we only have one IR spot because I could certainly use two right now.
Yeah, I've also been in that a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what you're going to do at quarterback. I think there are options, but no one has really emerged this year as like a consistent guy. Honestly, you might look at Daniel Jones maybe. He obviously had a bad week last week, but he got injured. He's actually been like fantasy-wise good because he actually runs the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, there's like if you start Daniel Jones and he gets 4 points, you look like an idiot because he's such a non-factor in real football. But I don't know. Pro Football Focus actually likes his season, puts him in the top 10 of quarterbacks right now, I think.
Wow.
I was like, what the hell when I saw that? But I don't know.
Yeah,
Pro Football Focus is also smoking some crack sometimes, but
they definitely
who
are.
knows? I
And
mean, I think that you'll find a go-to guy at quarterback. Maybe
yeah,
not a Wilson, but I think you'll find something. I'm not concerned. Um, you're deep at running back. You're deep everywhere, man. I just think like you'll get through the injuries. And yeah, they hurt, but I mean, you're sitting at 5-0, so you don't really need to concern yourself too much, I don't think.
that's fair. And for the record, I actually had Tony Toe Tap in my flex. I don't know if you checked during the week, but
I
I
did
had,
check during the week and I saw it was Antonio Brown.
yeah,
I
I
was
had him
surprised
there,
because Clyde kind of went off the last 2 weeks. And he kind
which
of
is
gets you
why I
back.
ultimately made the decision. But I don't know why, man. There's something about Tony Toe Tap and me. We just have a special connection, and I can tell when he's going to go off, and I can tell when he's not. And I think I got some false positives earlier, and then I started doubting myself. I just need to go back to trusting my gut here, and he's earned himself a spot on my team, and I'm excited to move forward with him as my flex. But that'll wrap it up for Around the Horn here. Thanks everyone for doing that. And Kirk, always a pleasure to go around the horn with you, my friend.
Yeah, same to you. Do we want to take a break here or do we want to plow through into mailbag? We should maybe get that done.
Why don't we take a break? Why don't we take a break?
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to take you through the mailbag, inaugural mailbag segment here. We have a lot of, we have 9, we only have 10 people in the league. We have 9 submissions. Obviously, me and John didn't really fill out. Did you fill out a submission, John?
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't, obviously. We had a lot from one particular individual who seems a bit obsessed, but yeah, we'll just take you through it. And, we're answering your questions. We want you guys to feel like you're participants in this. Obviously, like any amount of time that you spend like with us, getting our opinion, obviously like improves your day, makes you smarter, makes you a better fantasy manager. So you're welcome. And let's go into the mailbag here, John. What's up first here?
Yeah, and dude, this one's a real head scratcher, my friend. I saw this come in. This is the first one submitted by Jack Martelli. Question for the Commish is, why is Jack soft? And this is a question I've been asking myself for the better part of 4.5 years now. Ever since I met the guy, I thought he has something of like a teddy bear complex about him. I don't know if it's his gut or if it's his face, or I don't exactly know.
Do you want to go to the question thing? Because I think, is there more details on the actual, if you click question there on the top here?
Well, so all right. So if we do that, it breaks it down.
Oh, my bad. You had it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. Why do you think Jack is so soft then, John? Hard to say. Probably his upbringing.
You could probably have a full academic debate about why Jack is soft. I mean, I think there's reasonable minds can disagree on it. I personally think it's his mentality in life. But Kirk, what do you think?
I don't know. People have been debating, with serial killers, kind of the nature versus nurture aspect of what makes a psychopath. I think it's similar here with Jack. What makes a soft man? Is it nature? Is it nurture? I think it's probably a mixture of both. He was probably born to be, a little bit of a teddy bear, and then he kind of grew up and he sort of had an easy upbringing. One of those, is he Delco? I don't know where the hell he lives, but anyway,
Chester.
Obviously, silver spoon in his mouth. I don't know, but he's soft like a pillow.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not a great fantasy manager. Let's kick it over to the next question. Do you think?
All right. Another one from Jack. And like you said, there was certain people, I'm not going to name any names, who submitted a lot of responses. And this one was one. Question for the Commish is, why am I so bad at fantasy football? And Kirk, why don't you start off here?
Yeah. I'm not sure the reason. I think probably has something to do with this cockiness. If you humble yourself, Jack, I think you're going to find yourself getting a lot better at fantasy football. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, it's hard to teach, It's like asking Picasso, teach me to paint like you. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain that, but why don't you go ahead, John, and give your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're dead on. It's a work of art, really. It's not a science. The way he's finding creative ways to lose games is it's impressive, man. And I look
Yeah.
forward to figuring out how he'll lose next week's game. And I mean, yeah, I think he's just, like you said, cockiness is part of it, but also, he is an artist and he is an artist at sucking at fantasy football. So, I mean, hats off to him, and let's keep it rolling here. And not Jack Martelli coming in with a big question. Kirk, why don't you read it for us?
Hey guys, I'm currently 0-4. I'm just wondering, how do you win a fantasy football game? Is there some sort of secret or what? My team is by far the best in the league, but I just can't seem to win. Any advice? Also, shouldn't there be another option down here? I think he's referring to the is Jack soft. I'm not sure, Jack. I mean, sorry, it's not Jack here on this response. I don't know. He's currently 0-4. I mean, hate to tell you, that's a bit of an indicator as to who it is, but it's tough. It's kind of the same answer as the last one. It's hard to explain. It's harder to do what Jack is doing, really, than to just, stumble your way into a win, as the Sheriff maybe has demonstrated, as several people have had easy wins in this year.
Yeah.
So it's almost, you're more than likely to have one win in 5 games than you are to have 0 wins. So that's pretty impressive. Do you have anything else you want to add to this
I was
one?
going to say, I mean, Kirk, as a bottom feeder the last 2 years, one notable thing about me is I have stumbled into a win in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And like you said, it's easier to just pick up a random win than it is to lose. So, I mean, he's doing something horribly wrong down there. Maybe it's an Urban Meyer, maybe it's a John Gruden situation.
It's a
I think
perhaps.
make sure both perhaps. You can't rule anything out with the team starting out 0-5. And yeah, I mean, that's rough. But let's keep it rolling. Let's keep the momentum here. From Anonymous. Oh, interesting. Question for the
Jack
Commish Dish.
again here. It is referencing Jack's team here.
If the Martelli Moneyballers with 4 Z's has played John Teamer Week, they'd be 2-2. Just saying. ...
I've noticed that the person who's been filling these out has answered in the yes fashion for is Jack soft every single time. I think that's further evidence of just how soft perhaps this person is. Yeah, I'm not sure, like, the ifs and buts and all of this stuff. Like, if I had wings, I'd be a bird. Like, I don't really know what the point of this is. What is he trying to say? What is the purpose of this statement? I don't know. Any thoughts there, John?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We can go through a billion different contingencies. What if Jack was never born? I mean, he wouldn't be playing fantasy football. So I think that's about how much. Yeah, he would not be 0-5. I mean, that's pretty much how I see that. You can only play the people on your schedule. I have more points for than him. And yeah, let's leave it at that and keep it rolling here. Prego coming in. When will Prego get his first win? This is something we joked about, and I predicted, I believe, him beating Jack Martelli, both going into the week. What week would that be? Week 8?
7. I think it was week 7.
Week 7. I mean, they're both 0-5. My prediction is looking pretty good right now. Prego, pencil it in right now. You will knock off Jack Martelli for your first win in week 7.
I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit less optimistic. I'm going to say he doesn't get a win this year. Winless Prego. We'll see him next year, maybe in the consolation bracket if people stop paying attention. I think they're going to tie in week 7. Toilet Bowl, maybe like they both score 0 points. I don't know. Could happen. Anyway, you want to move on to number 6?
Yeah, let's do it. And we got End of Maxwell. How will Kirk's team bounce back after such a humiliating result?
I think I've sort of already answered it. Sort of talked about that today. We had the steel on the spine thing. Really, it comes down to taking it one game at a time, and you have to go into the locker room. And obviously, it's hard. It's hard on the players to lose like that. You want it so bad for them. You want it for the city, obviously, for the fans. But really, you just have to say, we're in that game. And we made one more mistake than the other team. I'm completely ripping off Dan Campbell.
I was gonna say, are you quoting Dan Campbell right now?
Anyways, yeah, we'll take it one week at a time, and we'll get a win.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I have nothing else to add.
That's Dev, probably.
That's actually my girlfriend, but okay. Moving on. The Commish Dish mailbag from Devin. What would Kirk give up for a Lions Super Bowl?
I think I've already given up quite enough, honestly. I'm not gonna, if like some guy, some shady guy came up to me and he said like, "Yo, like, you do this and you get a Lions Super Bowl." I think, okay, I've fucking done quite enough. I tune in every Sunday. I think I've suffered enough. If they get a Super Bowl when they get a Super Bowl, I can't be expected to just give endlessly here. Um, Even if I did, it would probably be some monkey paw situation where they win the year after I die. I'm just not about it. Um, you know, trust Dan Campbell. Let's see what he's got.
Yep, that's fair. And I think, as my grandfather is a diehard Lions fan, they've suffered far too long. I don't know what else can you ask for them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been brutal for just decades. So, I'm rooting for the Lions personally.
Yeah, I think you might be one of the only ones. Okay. Oh, this is one from John here. Want me to read this from you, John? From Mother
Absolutely.
Tucker. Jack is asshole. Why John hate? You definitely wrote this one, John.
I don't think I wrote this one, man.
You definitely wrote this one. I'm gonna go ahead and answer. I think it's because Jack is a bastard man. Do you want to move on to number 9?
Yep. And number 9, Sommer. Does Jackson when he actually, I've had this conversation with Jack, and the answer is in the affirmative. He told me it's better for his blood flow. Is that true? I don't know. Does he sit down and pee? I believe he does.
Winston Churchill said, "Why stand when you can sit?"
That's right. All right, let's go real quick. Is Jack soft? Look at the responses here, broken down by category. Indubitably, 6 responses. Certainly, 2 responses. Yes, 1 response. I put indubitably on there. I thought that was pretty funny, and people seem to agree. So we'll have a
I
new
ran a
question
little quick,
next week.
quick linear, some programming here, and it seems that the responses would correlate with Jack being soft. There's a significant indicator that Jack is soft.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and everyone filled it out for some reason. I don't think it was required, so
Yeah, I
people
don't
felt
think so.
passionate about it.
And if you consider
Um,
that probably 6 of those answers are from the man himself, it's a bit surprising.
it is definitely a little bit surprising. But all right, so that wraps up the Commish Dish mailbag inaugural segment. I think it was a lot of fun. We'll probably do it next week. So make sure to submit your questions, and we'll just probably keep it running. I'll probably delete the former responses so we have a fresh slate. But yeah, man, thanks everyone for submitting those questions. There were some pretty good ones in there.
Yeah, that was fun. We're gonna do it again next week probably. And yeah, I think that's it. We're gonna go to break here, and we'll be back right with our guest of the week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kurt.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with our special guest this week, Dev. How are you doing, Dev?
I'm doing fine, boys. Nice to see your faces. It's been a while since I've seen you guys, I feel like.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to see you, man. Always kind of a powerhouse of the league. Always kind of quietly dominating.
Not so
Always
quiet. I feel like I'm quite vocal in the group chat.
You're vocal in the group chat. I just mean you're not making noise about yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
There are some people here in the league, like Jack Martelli, perhaps, who sort of toot their own horn a bit. But you're sort of more of a humble lord in this league.
Yeah, I might have to change that today a little bit.
Hey, I mean, that's why
we like to see it, honestly. Yeah.
anytime we get a chance to bring someone on the pod who, is just a crafty mind, always a pleasure to pick their mind. And Dev, I think I described you once as saying like Dev is he'll be like chill and then he'll like talk to you with like a trade offer, but he is like a shark, man. Like he is out to get you and you gotta be worried. And you pulled off another great move with the Prego trade.
Amazing trade so far. I mean, I
yeah, I
think
did.
the outlook looks good.
Yeah, I like to be very cordial and polite, and I know everyone's very attached to their players, so this is trading with somebody is like sometimes it's like taking someone that they feel like they've raised, so it's a tough thing, and you got to come at it in a respectful manner, I would say.
We should save some of this for the interview, though, guys.
Yeah.
We want to do power rankings first. We obviously have to talk trades with Devin, but let's go right into the power rankings.
Of course.
Do you want me to start first, or do you want to start first, Dev?
We'll have you guys start first, and then I'll go last, I guess.
I'll unveil my Doomed here. I think this is going to be a bit of a shock for people to see who I've got here in Doomed. Let me just unveil it real quick. I have myself here in Doomed because Is that appearing for you guys? John, do you want to just?
No, not yet. There it is.
I have myself here in doomed because talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast. Dev, you weren't here. I'm being tested right now. I'm being tested. There are some higher powers at work, and as long as they stay at work, I just think there's no shot that I win a game. And I know that sounds like mumbo jumbo, but I'm at the point where I believe that. I'm fully bought into that. But we're gonna keep grinding for a win. But I do think it's very high chance that I am just doomed this season. Perhaps you guys can weigh in here. I mean, you can disagree about the roster. I mean, I evaluate my roster as one of the top 5 at least in the league. But I just think there are other forces at work here, guys, and that's kind of where I'm at. You can weigh in if you want. I don't know how much disagreement there will be, maybe just on the forces at work, but I have to say, I don't think anyone has been, more chances to witness them than myself. So
yeah, I think you got to remember here, like this is, I assume, in response to Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, and Hollywood, doing their thing on Monday Night Football. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of stuff around about, I think I saw somebody on Twitter was up 105 points or something heading into the game and then somehow lost. So you're not alone in like these, incredible comebacks.
It just seems tough to be a Lions fan and to be me in fantasy football. It's rough.
Yeah. It's a tough weekend too, because you drop your fantasy game on a massive comeback, and then you think you got that Minnesota game locked up. How could they possibly lose? And then they lose on a 50-yard plus field goal for the second weekend in a row.
What's crazy about that Lions game too is usually the Lions kind of deserve to win, and it gets robbed from them. They didn't deserve to win that game, but then it was like the script was flipped. So you're kind of buying in, right? Because it's not what you see every time they choke.
Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, maybe they'll get one. Like, we deserve it this time.
Yeah, it was like our time to give someone else a heartbreaking loss. Like, we took the lead with 37. We hadn't led the entire game. We took the lead with 37 seconds left on a 2-point conversion. Jared Goff had a dime. It was like, oh my God. Script flipped,
Stars are aligning. No,
they immediately march down. Prego gets all of his Adam Thielen points on that drive. All right, yeah, you guys want to take into? I don't want to talk about it too much. John, you want
to? Yeah. I just dropped my my doomed ranking, and it's Will Prego. I mean, 0-5. I think still the least amount of points for his team is trash. I mean, I feel like I say the same thing every week. I'm very disappointed in our reigning league champion, and what he has put on the field this year. It's nothing short of disgraceful.
Yeah. I'm with you. And I also think that, his team has kind of gotten worse. The Taylor trade looks bad. We'll talk about it later again in the interview with Dev, but Taylor trade looks bad. And I don't know. I think he has one of the worst running back situations. Even the Sheriff is like looking better at running back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just a bit concerned about Prego. I mean, I'm not a bit concerned. I kind of agree with the doomed. I think there's no chance he has at the playoffs here. I think he's like worse than 4. He's 0-5. He's kind of out of it this year. He's playing for the toilet bowl. Not much more to say about it, to be honest. Dev, if you have any thoughts, I mean, you can unveil.
Yeah, I'll unveil mine. Oh, I just did it in the opposite way, but you technically can see that. Yeah, it's also Prego. I mean, there you go. Yeah, it's also Prego for me. I mean, it's just none of everything that he reached for in the draft this year just is not panning out really. And the thing that is panning out, I just acquired in the trade. So yeah, I mean, it's, it's rough. And Prego is my main rival in the league. And, like it really, at some level you want to see him succeed, right? It's like in Pokemon, like you have your rival, but really like you're close friends and trying to push each other to be better. So that's what it's like with me and Prego, and it's tough to see him like this year.
Sort of a Lafayette and Lehigh rivalry.
Yeah,
one of class and distinction. Then I would say.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens. He's planning on playing spoiler, I assume, for someone later in the season. We'll see if he can put together a roster. I mean, there's some good waiver ads this week, I think, that he could potentially pick up some guys and fill out his team a little bit. We'll see what happens.
We didn't talk about Prego got his man this week. Forgot to drop someone. So the man goes to the sheriff and drops 16 points.
Yeah, that is brutal.
That is tough.
If it was anybody else, I don't know who put that in the chat, but if it was anyone else but the sheriff, like I would have been somewhat like sympathetic and potentially like talk to the person who ended up getting him and see if they would give them to him, because that's just brutal. But like, yeah, I
It
mean,
would have
it's
been a
the
hard
sheriff.
situation to explain to the sheriff.
Right.
And also, like I was a bit confused by the situation. I think he tried to drop someone off IR or something like
Yeah,
that.
he did. Sharp.
So yeah, a bit of a weird situation, but
Very
I mean,
weird
he would have
situation.
lost anyway, so it didn't really end up mattering that
Kind
much.
of like on par for his year though. Like that is something that would happen.
It
this
sums up the year, yeah.
year.
Although Robert Woods looks, maybe the future's looking up for him. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Do you guys want to get into the panic now? I'll unveil mine. I've
Yeah.
got Prego here, so we don't really need to discuss that. I'm right there with you. I just have obviously the bad juju for myself. Then I've got Jack here. I don't think it's a big surprise. Jack also 0-5. Good week for him, like 160. We talk about it every week again. Finds ways to lose. Really unlucky dude. Almost as bad juju as my own. But he has the championship ring, so we won't go there. Yeah, I don't like his team at all, like in terms of like its ability to come back. I think it's an average team, but 0-5, I don't think it's the best team in the league by any chance, and it's not like some miracle he's 0-5. He's like a good team that's 0-5. So I don't like him for the playoffs. And yeah, I think it's a fair rating to put him in panic. Do you guys have any disagreements there? I mean, I'm assuming you've probably got Jack in your own panic categories.
Yeah, and I can let me just unveil mine here.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, like, of course, Jack is going to be there, and of course, the 0-5 teams are going to be at the bottom, and that's where I put Jack and Prego. Rightfully so, man. He is just like we already talked about this. He's an artist. He is a craftsman at finding ways to lose. It's really impressive. Each week, I'm thinking, all right, how is he going to blow it? How is he going to lose? And he finds creative ways to lose. So hats off to him. And then, man, first to panic for Santi. I felt so good about his team. I gassed him up. I mean, he was giving me some gas, some love in the group chat about all the love I was showing his team. And Santi, I'm sorry, my friend. I like your team, and now I think your team's garbage. And that's kind of the way fantasy works, dude. You get a couple injuries, things don't go your way, and you wind up on the panic category.
Yeah. I mean, here I'll unveil mine as well here. I've got Jack and Santi as well. I mean, we've beaten the Jack stuff to, we're beating a dead horse there. So I'm sure
It's a fun horse to beat, though.
Well, it is. It's more of a pinata, right? So I'm sure we'll touch on that, specifically my matchup with him a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, I like his roster, honestly. Like, I don't think it's a bad roster, but he's gotten horribly unlucky in a lot of ways, or maybe that's just him being a bad fantasy manager. I think that's probably more it than anything else.
All with you on that.
Yeah. And then Santi, yeah, I was a huge fan. I was kind of with you, John, last week with ranking him up into the contenders. His team was looking really nice. And I mean, I think I have him at panicked at 8. But it's really going to depend on how serious the Saquon injury is. We don't really. They said it looked better than they hoped.
Yeah, they
don't
said,
really know what that
they
means.
said, I think that he was back next week, but I don't think there's any way he's back next week.
Yeah.
Maybe it looked worse than it was, but I'm still thinking like you're going to be out just based on how it looked. It looks like a 2-week injury, especially with
right. And even if he comes back,
he's injury prone, and their season's kind of already over. So like that's another thing. Like last year, Christian McCaffrey was good to go. And they we're not putting you on the field till you're 100% because this season is over. So I think you might have to be in danger of that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. If he comes back even after 2 games, like I don't think he's going to be, and he wasn't even up to full speed before that. So, we'll see what happens. As a Giants fan, obviously.
Yeah, you're a Giants fan, yeah.
So, yeah, enormously sad. Although the Tony's looking like maybe something.
Is it?
He's looking
yeah,
like maybe
what is his
something
name?
to-
Darius?
See that punch he threw?
Oh,
Yeah, although yeah, like I don't understand why. The same thing as you said, John. Like, why do people do that? You're gonna you're punching somebody with a helmet on. Yeah,
It doesn't,
but
it doesn't
maybe
make much sense. Yeah.
yeah, maybe Tony can save the Giants offense some this year. Who knows? Or maybe it's just a fluke. We'll see.
Yeah. They are probably the only team that has more injuries than Santi here. I mean, I'm with you guys on Santi. I wouldn't quite say panic yet because I think Carson and Barkley will be back. And I think when they come back, he's one of the better teams. And yeah, he's like in a hole, but
Yeah,
I think it's very possible. Like I would say he's still in the running. He's still in the mix. So yeah, I think maybe it's fair to say like there is some panic going on, but I don't think he needs to you know, like go crazy, set his hair on fire right now.
yeah.
I think if I would advise him on anything, I would say, don't don't sell everything, don't go crazy on trades. I would say run through with it.
But if
That's
there's
just my
a trade, if there's a trade there that's a fair value that maybe you've been talking to a certain commissioner about for a couple days now, why not execute the trade? I mean,
Yeah.
the hair's not on fire, but the oil is on the hair, and there's
Specifically that trade, I have seen the details of that trade. I would maybe not recommend that trade that John is referring to.
Dude, I've not heard this trade. Santi's
it
been
was, like,
getting lots of trade offers.
Aaron Rodgers and Barkley for like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Sam Darnold. I'm not sure. I'm not positive on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the opportunistic managers in this league, which there are plenty, I'm sure, have been ringing up Santi's phone line to try to get one of those players on their squad. Rightfully so, because that's what we did.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate, I don't think like I have him at 8, and maybe that's a little bit low. Like I like Santi's team. I really do. I think it's a good team, and like when it was fully healthy, I think it's a really good team, and I still think that he can be like things can be fine this season for him. So maybe 8's a little bit low, but yeah, this week was definitely not good for his team.
Yeah, total agreement there, Dev. And I think I don't think it's an unfair ranking, and I think he has to listen to the trade offers, obviously. But I'm just saying, pump the brakes a little bit if I'm Santi, because I think he might be panicking a little bit too much. Do you guys want to get into that category here?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I've got Sommer and Santi here. Obviously, we talked about Santi a lot. I don't think we need to go into it too much.
Yeah.
I've got him one position up because I've got myself down there. Sommer is, I think, probably a hotter take. The reason is because I think Sommer's getting a little bit of big headism. This is not a statement on his fantasy team, but I think we've seen that, as Mark D'Antoni likes to say, pride cometh before the fall in this league. And yeah, I just think the big headism is on the rise. Talking a lot of trash about the Lions to have such a shitty team of his own in the Washington football team that was expected to go to the playoffs. That is currently one of the worst teams in the league. There was no expectations for the Lions this year. And, he's kicking me while I'm down. I don't like it. I think he's got a big head. I think he's an idiot. Hate the guy. I'm putting him in the mad category. And yeah, prove me wrong. I don't think he will, though. I don't think he will.
Yeah, I got to quickly respond to this. I feel like your personal beef with him is coming into the rankings here, and I feel like that's the only reason you put him in meh.
Absolutely not. It's completely impartial. Let's take a look at some of the evidence here. Biggest head in the league. I'm going to be honest with you. It was me last year when I was 5-0.
Oh, man.
We saw what happened. Right? Won 2 games the rest of the year. Let's talk about the other big heads, Jack and Prego. Where are they on this power ranking here? They're at the very bottom. Now, Sommer was talking a lot of trash. He was talking trash to me individually. Some of it wasn't seen. I'm getting a sense of the big headism, and I think the fantasy gods are going to punish that.
John, you should have been around
here a lot more on sort of the supernatural forces in a way.
I wish John was around in the apartment last year when you were 5-0. I wish. Oh man,
yeah, we had some people on the verge of suicide because of my
never ending. Anytime you say something to Kirk, he turns it into the. Did you know that I'm 5-0 with like most? Yeah, like, and I still to this day remember like Will sitting like on our stools in the back, Kirk on the couch. We're having like a big long conversation, and Will's trying to like justify why Zeke was like the number one running back like that year, and then like Zeke went off a cliff like for the rest of the year, and then it's just funny times.
We had some epic arguments, myself and Sommer. And listen, I actually don't think that like Sommer's still in the mix of the playoffs, even in this spot. Right? He would be in here at 6. I think that's like fair. I don't think this is one of the best teams in the league. You can sue me. I mean, I don't think he's expecting 5 touchdowns from his wide receivers or from his running backs every week. I don't think that's going to happen very often. And I don't like his wide receivers particularly or his tight end. That would be the fantasy reason. I do think maybe fantasy reason I would still put him in the contenders. But I also, I factor in some other forces here. I'm a religious man.
I mean, rightfully so, dude. What we've seen from the big headedness, you make a compelling case, and if Sommer were to tank and fall down these rankings as he gets more cocky, hey, I think I'm here for it. And speaking of that, let me just go and unveil my Matt categories. And in the name of not trying to keep a big head, I got myself down there in the Matt category with the Sheriff. I think there's a couple of things going into what my decision is here. I lost Russell Wilson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. My replacement right now is Sam Darnold. He had 6 points last week against the Eagles defense, historically bad defense. They're trash. I mean, I can't say enough bad things about them. And then a part of it, though, was I need to give the Sheriff a little more credit than I have. And I'm hoping my 0-14 take at the beginning of the year doesn't come back and bite me in the ass, because it very well could. He scored 170. I only scored 139, whatever. And I'm worried. So I threw him up ahead of me, and trying to stay humble, trying to combat some of this big headedness and keep the positive vibes going here by just the sacrifice again in the power rankings.
I understand the drop for you. I'm not going to say I agree with that. I think you're a better team than a meh team. And I think you can figure out a solution at quarterback. I think it's a problem you haven't had kind of yet, but I think you'll find a solution. But I do understand, combating the big headedness, sort of the anti-Sommer approach, if you will. And then the Sheriff, I've got the Sheriff in a spot that might be a little surprising to people. But that's just because I love the guy. I think this is a fair rating of his fantasy talent. But you know what? I really love his move to get what's his name? Fournette.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette.
Move. Yeah. What a good move. Solid move. Had a great pickup. We talked about it earlier. He stole the guy from Prego. And all of a sudden he gets 40 points from his running backs after not getting 20 from them the rest of the year. I think he has good wide receivers, good tight end. I don't know. I think his team is like an average team this year. I don't think that's even really that hot of a take, even though he hasn't had the scoring. I think like this is going to be a tough out every week.
Yeah, I'm going to unveil mine.
Go ahead, Dev.
Yep, I'm with Mark and Sheriff here. I think their teams are, we kind of talked about this already. They're just kind of average. I think there's obviously some standout players for the Sheriff. He's got Devontae Adams. Justin Herbert has been great so far, especially this last week. But, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine the Sheriff going that far with Leonard Fournette, Damian Williams, and Miles Sanders, like as the starting running backs. It's just not enough, I think. And he has Devontae Adams. I actually really like Deontay Johnson, and Travis Kelce is great, but there's just going to be weeks where his running backs are going to put up like you talked about previous podcasts, like 20 points jointly or less. So it's just not a consistent enough running back core, I think, to grab enough wins or to like just really be competitive in the playoffs. And then for Mark, I really like Mark's team. Jamar Chase has obviously been a home run. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't draft him. I was thinking about it, but then I just kind of got turned off at the end.
He had a rough preseason. So
yeah, he did. He definitely did. Wow. But his running back course is good. Obviously, Dalvin Cook's missed now 2 games. Who knows how many more he's going to miss? And then, I mean, Cordell Patterson has been I don't know if that's sustainable. Doesn't seem so sustainable to me. Maybe I still think he'll be fine and good, but maybe not.
I think he might be kind of like you know how James Robinson had the season where he he kind of exploded out the gates, but then still ended up being kind of our RB2 the rest of the year. I think
Sure.
it might
Yeah.
be something similar for Cordell Patterson this year.
Yeah.
And I agree with your Sheriff take a lot because even though he did improve his running back situation a lot, like we can't overstate that a lot.
Yeah.
It's still weaker than most teams. And wide receivers are in general more variable than running backs, I think, just because of the nature of the way they score their points.
Yep.
So he's going to have down weeks from wide receivers. And, he's not going to have the running back strength to kind of make that up. I'm completely there with you.
Yeah.
And then
I can see him making the playoffs, but
what?
I said I can see him making the playoffs. I just don't know. Like,
Yeah.
like
I'm right
first
there
round
with you.
exit.
And Mark, I think we're all in agreement that he's kind of been a staple of the man category. We're right there. And he's also been dealing with injuries. So maybe when he gets him back, he kind of puts it all together, but we'll see how it goes. You guys want to get contenders now?
Yeah, it's it.
Okay. I've got two things I need to talk about here. Mark, I've got a little bit higher. We kind of already talked about him. I'm kind of liking when he gets Ridley and who's the other guy who's got injured, John?
He's got it's a Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook and Ridley back. I think that'll be a huge boon to his team. I kind of like him as a contender a bit more, but I can completely see your guys' side of the argument. I don't think we need to talk about that too much. I've got Josh pretty low here, and I think we talked about it a little bit when we ran around the horn, but some of his big play guys, there are just like more concerns now. Like the upside maybe isn't as bright as it was looking at the beginning of the season for a lot of these guys who I kind of expected to explode like once every 3 weeks. I'm just not sure about that anymore. And I think the inconsistency could really hurt him. I still like him to make the playoffs and everything, but like 2 weeks ago, if you asked me, I would have ranked Josh's team as one of the best two teams in the league, one of the favorites to be in the championship and to really compete for it. This year, I'm not this week. Like I'm not sold on that anymore. I think this is a playoff team. I don't know how much noise they can make in the playoffs, and even if they do make noise, I don't see them making noise 3 consecutive weeks in a row. I don't know. I'm kind of selling my shares of Josh, and I'm using that money to buy all of the shares of the Sheriff, all of them. 177.
Dude,
I thought he had the
Josh
most.
is not going to be happy.
Yeah, he's not. I had the most. I like did the research before you got to 181, Dev, and I was like, this is the most points scored in the league this season from the Sheriff.
Yeah,
I've been riding the
it's his
Sheriff.
highest week he'll have the season.
This is the real good story of the year for me. And that's sort of been like kind of the theme running through my rankings here is the juju, the supernatural, the sort of, the intangibles.
Yeah.
I just think Sheriff's got the story, boys. If anyone has a storybook championship like run, it's the Sheriff. And I kind of buy into that. I love that. So that's why
I hope he watches these. I hope you're supporting him.
I think there's almost 0% chance that he does, but
I agree.
If he comes, all right, first of all, he's got to come on the podcast, but if the Sheriff wins the league, that would rival myself winning the league in terms of how much I like it. If there is any other person
absolutely
win the league,
I think everyone would agree on that.
Yeah, I would love to see the Sheriff win the league. He's probably the second person besides myself I want to win the league. Yeah.
He's number one now that I think I'm out of it.
All right, I'll go ahead and drop my rankings here.
Should I just drop mine too?
Yeah, go for it, Dave.
Talk about them.
Not too much of a difference there. We got obviously, Kirk, you're worried about God being against you and just being sad because you're a Lions fan and all that nonsense. But I think I look at your roster, a lot of talent. I think Christian McCaffrey coming back this week is going to be a big lift. Sure, you lost in heartbreaking fashion, but that's fantasy, man. You're going to lose some games like that. I lost to my father in 142 to 143 in a standard league. I mean, brutal, gut-wrenching loss. And, you pick yourself up and you move forward. That's all you can do. And you're getting a big piece back. So I don't think you need to be too worried. Mark, we already talked about Mark. And then Josh, I like his team. It's a lot of upside on the team. But there are concerns of if people are not playing well, which Josh, more so than other teams, can fluctuate significantly, some of the players on his team, what happens. And we saw another loss. We talked to him last week. He's not worried. He said, even if I drop this, I'm not worried. Had a decent week, lost the game, and we'll see. I mean, if he loses another one this week, I think it might be time to hit the panic button, but for right now, no. I see no worries with Josh's team, and I like it.
Yeah. I mean, John, you and I are kind of in direct agreement, I think, for all these, really. I'm not hitting the panic button on Kirk yet either at all. I actually think, Christian McCaffrey, really, the beauty of Christian McCaffrey is that in PPR, he is both a running back and receiver. So he's like a 2-in-1 combo. And he really makes up completely for like being weak at another position. So like, yeah, Kirk, you might be weak at your flex a little bit right now with OBJ. But like Emmanuel Sanders is on the rise. He's had 3 great weeks in a row now. And you have, I think, DeAndre Swift is he's potentially top 10 rest of season back at the very least, in my opinion, top 12. Mike Williams has been electric. Cooper Kupp, don't have to say anything. So, and obviously Darren Waller is a huge, that's a huge advantage over most teams. So, I personally really like Kirk's team, and I could definitely see him moving up in my rankings in the upcoming weeks. I think you have honestly good shot in the playoffs to make it pretty far this year.
I completely I have like a plan here, Devin. I think you really grasped onto it there, and it's like, I think I'm weak at flex, and I'm kind of hoping Mike Thomas comes back. I mentioned that in the text.
Didn't even mention that.
So that was kind of my plan, but I don't know. I'm just kind of in a bit of a hole, down on myself here. We're gonna see. But there are also some very good teams in this league. So
yeah. Oh yeah, your team is scary. Think about when Mike Thomas comes back. I wasn't even thinking about that when I was talking about it, but yeah, really scary.
Anyway,
I mean, I need to talk about Sommer because he's in my contenders, I guess, right? Why I put him there.
You got to talk about him.
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks like to me that Will has done, about as good as you can with the team that he drafted. He has like the least points against anybody else in the league. So like he's been very lucky in that regard. But if you really look at it now, his team is just ascending. And I think that I can easily see him making the playoffs, making a deep run, depending on what he does with his roster. Like Antonio Gibson had 20 touches or over 20 touches this week, which is like kind of the volume you want to see from him. Terry McLaurin, I think he's going to have some down weeks like he had this past week, but the week before he had in the 30s. So, there's nothing to worry about with him. James Robinson, I think, has been great and still will be great. He's like the only bright spot on the Jags offense. And he might need to like maybe work out his wide receivers a little bit, but, I personally have no problem playing people like Michael Pittman. He's been good this season. So, Will doesn't have like this, what people would say are like stars on his team, like that many. But I think that like he honestly has a pretty consistent roster. And I think it will only get better because Will's a great manager. So
I think that's a fair take. I think I have like the opposite kind of take, but I think they're both fair interpretations. Because like Will has kind of exploded the last 2 weeks. You can't say anything about that against that. His roster's played really well. And I guess I kind of just buy into it going the other way. As you kind of buy into him going up, I kind of say, I think we'll see some regression to the mean. But yeah, I mean, they're both fair takes. And I think, again, all of us here would agree that Sommer knows fantasy football, even if he's a smug little shit.
And I mean, I didn't even mention Eckler. Like, obviously, Eckler has been a home run pick for him.
Yeah. And so I think, it's a fair take. Do you guys want to get into the favorites here?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go first. We're going to have some familiar faces here, boys. Obviously, you may have noticed that my fellow podcasters here are. Is that showing up, John, or can you help me out?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I got Devin John here. John's panicking about his team a little bit because of injury bug and everything. I'm not really buying into that. I think there's a lot of guys you can find to replace the quarterback position. That's why I drafted my quarterback as my last player. Obviously, that landed me Ryan Tannehill, which was not good, but I addressed it. I found a way to address it. And I think even if you're streaming quarterbacks, it's really not the end of the world. It's really not. There are guys you can find, and some weeks you're not going to find them, and that's going to be painful. But Russell Wilson will be back eventually, and I think you'll find the right guy at least like 3 out of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We can mention that I've never heard of a finger. I mean, if his finger fell off, he should be back in 2 weeks. I've never heard, how is a finger injury keeping a guy out 6 weeks?
Yeah.
No idea.
Some weird
Sure.
thing. It's like some tendon, I think, that like got messed up. But you
Very
can't do
bizarre.
worse than Kirk has done with quarterbacks the last few years, John.
No
So
one could do worse than
That
me.
is true.
Although I had Rodgers last year. So last year I was
That's
fine.
true.
But the first year, oof. Dev, I've got you here at 1. Let me
Okay.
tell you my reasoning here. I think you got the best running back situation in the league right now. Najee Harris, you were talking about Christian McCaffrey is both a running back and a wide receiver. That's kind of what I'm seeing from Najee Harris this year. I was wary of him at points. I'm off that. I think he's a solid RB1. And I
Okay.
think you might have like 2 top 5 running backs, which is just such a boon for your roster. 181, obviously, you're trending upwards. I think you have like tied for second best record in the league right now.
Yep.
Um,
Me and Will.
so I think you're just flying high. And I think you have a question mark at wide receiver. Obviously, I think we would all maybe agree on that right now.
Yeah.
But you have options, right? You can hold on to AJ Brown and see what's what. You can make a move. You can find some guys on the waiver wire. I just think wide receiver, honestly, like if you have the running back situation you just have so many options to fix that problem that I'm not worried at all, really. I've got you at 1 here. I think you're flying high, and John, I've got you at 2. So I don't
Yeah.
think it's really that crazy of a take, but
No, I'll let me just go through mine real quick. And for the same reasons you mentioned for devs, and what I'll say about the 2 top teams, they have the best running back situations in the league, in my opinion. Dev with the stack of Jonathan Taylor, Henry, and Harris. I'm actually a little more skeptical on Harris. I know he went out in the fourth quarter with cramps. They're giving him the ball so often. I get that he's a rookie and that he can probably handle that workload, but like they're running him into the ground. They targeted him 19 times in a game. Like their offense kind of sucks, and they have to give him the ball because he's really one of the few playmakers besides Deontay Johnson, and now losing Juju. He might even get the ball more. So, so long as he holds up and is durable, all things are good to go there. And Dev, I don't mind your wide receivers. I think AJ Brown can turn it around. They're just the whole Titans are in a funk. And I think
I appreciate that.
yeah,
I
I think
a lot
they'll
of
come
flack
back.
for my wide receivers. I don't think it's as bad as everyone thinks it is.
No, but Amari
I don't want to say
Cooper.
that it's like horrible. I'm just saying I think it's probably your weak.
Oh, for sure. I have faith in Amari Cooper personally. I'm sure when we speak about my team like a little bit later, like I'll touch on him. But yeah, I'll just reveal
Very
mine.
quickly, in defense of Sommer, I think his running back situation is second best to you. I mean, he's like Eckler looks like probably a top 2. He might even be the number 1 running back by the end of the year. Like that would not surprise me at all. And part of it too is he's getting a lot of rushing touchdowns. So they're not hesitant to give him the ball, even though he's a little undersized.
Yeah.
Which is something I've been dealing with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Still throwing Darrell Williams, but I mean, yeah, I love the Eckler, Gibson, and then who's his third running back that I'm forgetting right now?
James Robinson.
James Robinson. So I mean, I think all of them are probably in the top 10, top 15 category. So if you get a triple stack like that, good things are bound to happen, even if your wide receiver is a little weaker.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I like that strategy of having a solid third running back on the team that you potentially can flex, because it gives you a lot of flexibility around bye weeks, especially, or potential injuries. I understand that like in PPR that having a wide receiver is generally like the preferred method, but I mean if you have a running back that's also catching passes, it's still it's not maybe equally as good, but it's still solid. You play your best player there. So on my rankings I have myself at first. I don't like to be to toot my own horn and stuff like that, but I do think my team's looking really good right now. And when I have you, John, I mean I debated putting you in front of me. I mean, you're 5-0. Your team looks great. I mean, Alaire's hurt, but your team doesn't have that many weak points. I actually really like Jacoby Myers. Personally, he hasn't had a touchdown in some crazy amount of receptions, like a record number or something like that. They'll come. He's Mac Jones' favorite target. Kirk was saying, you can figure out the quarterback stuff. I think that's one of the, least worrisome positions to have a problem at. I do want to go back though and just reference and talk about Josh, because I put him in my contenders and I have him at 3. And like, this was as high as I felt like I could put Josh for a team that's 2-3. But I think Josh's team is great. Like, I really like Josh's team, and he might, because I'm not putting him higher, he's still, of course, going to be mad about it. But like, he's got a lot of flexibility. He's got so many great wide receivers, and like, yeah, Geno Smith is going to make Lockett a little bit worse. But I think in the long run, like, he's boom or bust, but I think Lockett is going to be still solid, and he's not even starting him. So it gives him a lot of wiggle room if he wants to make trades, maybe acquire, a star by pairing 2 pieces together, whatever he thinks. I still really like Josh's team. I think he's gotten a little bit unlucky. He's in his special rankings that he does, I think he's like in 2nd or 3rd based off records. So I think Josh's team is definitely going to recover.
And to drop a little bit probably this week though, right? Because what did he score this week? Everyone kind of exploded this week.
Lots of big scores.
Yeah, I don't know. Although Lamar had like 41, so I don't even know what his final total was. Probably pretty.
Josh
high.
was like one.
I think it was like 145.
145.
Okay, never mind. Really probably beat a lot of teams then. You guys want to get into the interview? That was good power rankings, I thought.
Yeah.
Want to start us off here, John, or do you want me to?
Yeah, let me start it off because we kind of got into it before we went really deep into the power rankings. Dev, we have you on here. We have to talk about trades. I would love to hear you don't have to tell us. I think we often preference that with the strategy wise, but let us know, man. What are you doing? What's in the water down there in DC that you're just making all these wheeling and dealing trades?
You guys know I've got fantasy football on the brain most days, and I don't get a lot of free time, but like fantasy football is something I can just pick up and put down kind of at will. So I spend a lot of time just acquiring information and stuff. And so when I'm looking to trade with someone, I always evaluate their team, right? And I like put myself in their shoes. And it's like, what holes do they have in their team? And what holes are in my team. And you have to really evaluate whether your teams are compatible for trading, because like people who are like kind of inexperienced at fantasy will just send trades based off like just straight player value. And that's not really how it works. It's all about the context of the team. And so like, maybe numerically off a trade chart, this is an equal trade, but in the context of that person's team, it just doesn't make sense. Or stuff like that. So, it's an art and that definitely takes some perfecting. And I still talk to like friends and get their advice on trades and stuff as well. But yeah.
You want to take us through? I mean, you've had the marquee trade of the year, kind of. Taylor for. What was the trade exactly? What was it? Taylor for Thielen?
It was
someone else.
Taylor and Myles Gaskin, which at that point, we know Myles Gaskin blew up for 31 points. By the way, I dropped him. I dropped him. I got him in a trade after he got 0.2. So it was like, he's on the wire.
Like, he was valueless, but leaving Prager's team obviously is a boon.
So Jonathan Taylor and at the time valueless Myles Gaskin for Adam Thielen, who at the time had like 30, 16.
Yeah, he's having a good season, average season.
Yeah. And then Devonta Smith. And we had talked about the trade actually the week before, but Prego and I were playing each other. So he was like, I don't really want to trade with you. And I actually thought that like, I had been offering him Chuba Hubbard. He was the last piece. But he was like, we'll do it next week. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because Chuba Hubbard's worth less in a week. Like you should get as much use out of it. Anyway, I asked him the following week and he actually, like I sent him an offer and then that's the offer that we did. Is the one that he sent me back. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And
I mean, a good trade. A good trade.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, like you were looking, I guess Jonathan Taylor was obviously the big piece there. Were you just
Yeah.
looking for running back depth, or what was your mindset? Because
Well, I was looking at
not too good
Prager's
running
team.
back. So what were you thinking?
I was looking at Prager's team, and he at the time he was like what 0-3.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Robert Woods was not producing. Um, at the time, I don't think Kareem Hunt was good so far, but like he's had 2 great weeks back to back, like really good weeks. So like there, he was maybe just like an okay piece on his team. Jonathan Taylor had his week 2 and 3 were not great.
He had a low value when you got him, kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
he had two.
Was that Prego's first round pick though?
Yes.
Like, dude, it just doesn't make sense at all, man. Like, I'm sorry, Dad. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
are you kidding me? I mean, it's his first round
I mean,
pick.
it was a good work by Dev here.
Yeah.
A
But
bit
I mean, I
surprising
think
from
this was
Prego,
more
though.
so Prego was like, my team sucks. I need
But
to
it
make
does seem like Dev, you get on the receiving end a lot of these trades where it's sort of head scratchers afterwards. Like I think you got Stephon Diggs from Will last year, didn't you?
And AJ Brown for Kenyon
And
Drake.
AJ Brown. So I mean, and Will's
Was
team
that from
very good
Prego?
last year. Can you imagine
No.
those
Who's that?
guys?
Oh, from Sommer.
Yeah, last year I sent. Remember, Kenyon Drake got drafted like in the top of the first round or like beginning of the second round as like an RB1 last year, and it was like 4 weeks in, and AJ Brown was just coming off injury, and Stephon Diggs had 4 good weeks, but was drafted like in the 60s, so people didn't really know what like the deal with him was, and so I remember like I accepted it, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't know if I should have done that," and obviously,
It
yeah,
does seem like you're on the receiving end of a lot of these, though.
it's because I'm active.
Yeah,
I was
you
gonna
are.
say, Dev.
People
That's the
know I'm
thing.
down to trade, and
Well,
like
yeah.
also no one on my team, like people have untradables on their team. I have no untradables. I will seriously consider every offer that someone
kind
sends me.
of a lot of people get like I know myself personally because I'm following the players kind of, you know, like there might be someone who has a increased value who I just don't know, and I'm like, this guy's a bum, but even though he's not really a bum, just because like I follow the guys on my team the most closely, right?
Sure.
And I'm obviously bought, like I got the player, so like I'm obviously bought in on them.
You have an attachment
Um,
to him. Yeah.
yeah. So you do a good job, kind of. I mean, of kind of keeping them at arm's distance. You're sort of the Patriot way here.
Mm.
I definitely have favorite players. Like going into this year, in a lot of my leagues, I wanted Lamar Jackson, and I basically didn't get him in any because he went so high.
Yeah.
But like there are certain players that I really like. Like I'm a huge Derrick Henry fan right now. Obviously, like he's been backpacking my team, so of course I have to be. But like if somebody offered me, you know,
Fair deal.
Devonte Adams and I don't know, like Antonio Gibson. I don't even know if I do that, but like Devonte Adams and like Zeke
Dalvin Cook or yeah,
or
Zeke.
something, I would consider that. Yeah, I mean, I just anything to get a leg up, even if I
Yeah,
like.
Dev, I was gonna ask you about that. So, Kirk drew this comparison to the Patriot way, and I mean, let's call it what it is. You have no championship rings. Kirk doesn't have any championship rings. I don't have any championship rings. You've made a lot of good moves, and yet you haven't been able to get over the hump. What do you think? What do you think goes wrong? I mean, have you made the playoffs both years? I feel like you probably have.
He was
I did
he was the first
not.
one out, like year one.
Yeah. In the
Okay.
first year, that was if you can believe it, that was my first year of fantasy football.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was.
How about that, Dev? You've had like a steep learning curve.
I put a lot. I just like it so much that I put so much time into it. So yeah, yeah. Like the first year,
That's
I did a really bad trade in my first year with Maxwell, where Nick Chubb was having his breakout season, and I traded Nick Chubb, who was great in that season, and a bunch of other good players for Melvin Gordon, who was hurt, because I was like, Melvin Gordon's sick, and yeah, I was out of the playoffs by 1 game in like a heartbreaking. I think I needed Maxwell to lose, and he was like gonna definitely lose, and then he didn't or something.
Yeah, I think you and I were both actually. We were in
I think I
contention
remember that. It
last
was like
spot.
you guys were playing the game, and the
Yeah.
winner had a chance if someone else lost.
Yeah.
And your game
Something
like
like
went
that.
down to the wire on Sunday night, and like Dev won. And then I think the Monday night game just made it meaningless, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think
He
it
was
was
the
like
power
that.
ranking guy, and I kind of remember that storyline.
Yeah. Yeah. So to answer your question, John, I think like definitely like I love to trade, obviously, and I love that aspect of fantasy football. I think honestly that's what makes like that's one of the best parts about it for me. So that can definitely make me do stuff that I probably should not. Like there are not every trade that I make is a good one. Sometimes that I'm messing around too much with my team. So yeah, like I definitely get the benefit of being like opportunistic, like opportunistic stuff like this. But sometimes the opposite happens, and like I remember I traded you last year and Eckler, and Eckler got hurt that week, and was out 5 to 8 weeks or whatever. So,
Give me peanuts, man.
huh?
You got all
Said
the way
you traded
down.
me a bag of peanuts for it.
I know.
I do remember that. So, Kirk, a little inside info here. So at this point, I think I had chalked my team. I chalked a year, and then I'm like, all right, let me unload the last of my talent to tank. And Dev comes in as he does, looking for a deal. And at whatever he said, I was like, just yeah, whatever. And then he comes back, he's like, all right, man, I feel bad. Like, let me throw in another player. He said something like that. And he had to throw in another player because he felt bad about the trade.
Dude, like, oh man,
Probably worried
that
it was
goes
gonna
against
be
everything. Like, I feel fucking horrible for doing that at the time. Honestly. Like that goes against everything I feel about like fantasy football, where it's like there should be like good faith in a trade. Like people should enter into it with like good faith.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that was. I mean, it ended up like not mattering for the
And
conversation.
we should talk also about another trade instance. Year one, not a marquee trade. Many people don't know about this trade. It was kind of talked about and then forgotten. It was between myself and Will Sommer. Will had cornered me in his room. He's been talking to me about this trade for 3 hours. Like, my mind was starting to go fuzzy. Like, obviously, the first hour and a half, I was like, no way on this trade. And then, it starts looking better and better. Like, the more you look at it, obviously, you just keep looking at it and you're like, yeah, maybe like this does work. So obviously, I was aware of this situation. So I went to Dev. I was like, Dev, does this make sense?
Bro, it was my first year of fantasy.
Yeah, it was Dev's first year. Dev is trying to push through another trade with someone else, which is being protested by the league. And Will says, yo, tell him this is a good trade and I'll help you push it through. So Dev's like, yeah, I think it looks good to me. Like barely looks at it. Trade happens, completely decimates the remainder of my roster. It wasn't a good roster. I think I was like 0-4 already. So it wasn't like a huge deal, but it was a bit brutal. It was a bit brutal and a little bit cutthroat by Dev. But
Dude,
so we flip it over, guys, or Dev, do you want to comment? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that completely changed like the power dynamic of the league too. Like Will went like almost undefeated for the rest of the season and was like, I don't know how he didn't win. I mean, I know that he lost in the playoffs, but like for all intents and purposes, like Will's team was so much better than everyone else's like that year. Yeah, like that
John
was
beat Will the last week of that season, and then it didn't matter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Dude,
Wait, yeah,
have
he started Dwayne Haskins, didn't he? He started Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, you started
Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins and lost.
I remember.
I have Sommer's number in fantasy football. Like, there's no denying it at this point. I can literally play anyone, and
Are
they'll
you
go
4-1 against him right now, or what are you?
Yeah, I think so because I beat him this year as well, and then I beat him when I won 3 games last year, and I dropped like 170 on him. Dude, my team, like they rise up for Sommer's matchup, and I expect nothing less. Dev, why don't we keep you here and let's go to like the Martelli roast, and then we can look at the points for in the league.
Yeah,
that works for you.
Okay, yeah. Do we want to talk about we just get into the Marcelli roast? Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, I just like looking at the clock.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot, guys. Sorry.
No, it's no big deal. This
good.
kind of happens. We just started later tonight, so
Yeah. So all right, I'll kick it off for Martelli roast of the week. And I mean, let's look at the graph here, boys. In the blue is John's number of wins, in the red is Jack's number of wins. 5 weeks. I've had this graph, I think, for 3 weeks now. And Kirk, I can't really quite see. I don't have my spectacles on this week.
It's hard to
Is there
evaluate
any,
this
is there
graph.
any red on this graph?
I've been meaning to pick up a microscope because this graph just keeps confounding me. I can't find any red on it week after week. It's weird because you would expect the red to be there.
You would.
Because Dev, I think maybe you can confirm this for us. We are under the impression that Jack has played 5 fantasy games this year. Is it possible that he has not recorded a win in any of these games? Is that
Well, I mean, he technically has played 5 fantasy games, but he hasn't really shown up to any of them technically. Like, especially this last one this week. Like,
that's a good way to put it?
Yeah. I was just, doing my job, taking out the trash this week, as you do. So,
They had a derogatory name for Matthew Stafford in Detroit. They called him Stat Padford. I think you might want to say that about Jack's team this year.
yeah.
Once they completely get routed this week, they got Dev's got the prevent defense on the field the entire second half, and they just running it up, making it look presentable, making it look neat.
Yeah.
With the record books.
Well,
You know what it is?
I called up Jonathan Taylor before the game, and I told him to run it up a little bit, just make sure Jack really.
Yeah.
Kirk, it's empty calories though, and I mean that's Jack for you. Bunch of empty calories, no meat on the bone.
He's a Diet Coke,
Yeah.
Diet Coke, zero sugar. That's what it is.
He's got to be the Martelli of the week, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my Martelli of the week goes. If that wasn't clear, it goes to Jack.
Yeah, me as well. I mean,
Yeah.
not much to say there.
Do you guys want to wrap it up here? Deb, do you want to be the first person to join us on the outro here? Or do you guys want to keep? Do we want to?
I was gonna say real quick. We can do.
Let's show the graph. Yeah. Okay.
Small observations. I'll just say mine. Dev is starting to pull away a little bit. He had a huge week, and compared to last week, I know it's like kind of hard to see on the graph, but he now has, what does he have? 726. Josh is at 690. He's the only one above 700, and I would not be surprised if in maybe 1 or 2 shifts, but if Dev finishes first in points for, that might even be expected at this point.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I'm not seeing too much movement. I think Sommer hopped me, but I think I stay at 5 because Santi kind of fell off. That's I think the biggest movement is Santi from 4 to 9. Kind of a big week from everyone, and then Santi scores 80, so I think that's why that happened.
Yeah.
Even I think I was like maybe second or third lowest point total, and I scored 130. So, on an average week, that's going to be fine. But obviously this week was a productive week for fantasy.
Yep.
Mark stays right around 6. So I think that 6th spot right now would belong to me, or who would it belong to, guys?
So
would it be Josh? I'm not sure.
I don't know what the tiebreakers would. It would be go down to tiebreakers at 2 and 3.
I think it would be Josh.
It would be
Because
Josh.
he's 2 and 3.
Well, because there's a bunch of 2 and 3 teams though. Because wouldn't Josh just be in already? I don't know.
Anyway, I
Anyway,
was gonna say, is the first
Jack is still
tiebreaker
out.
points for? Does anyone real quick? Is the first tiebreaker points for? Or is it head to head?
It is. Yeah, it is points for.
It's points for. All right, yeah, then Josh. Okay, sorry. Keep
So I
going.
think I would be in the 6th spot, and Josh would be in the 5th spot, unless I'm mistaken.
Oh, are you 2-3, Kirk?
Oh no, because Sheriff is also in there. I don't know. Bit confusing. Jack's out though. We can say that. Jack is still out. And if Josh continues to lose and put up points, Jack will continue to be out, and he can just forget about it. Honestly, just pack it up. Interesting graph though. Deb, you got to feel good looking at this graph. I think.
Yeah, I do.
I don't have much to say outside of that.
I do feel good about this graph. I'm slightly less optimistic about my team than you guys are moving forward. I do like my receivers. I kind of use some outside sources to analyze fantasy outside of ESPN. I don't really like their rankings and stuff. And I think that stuff has my receivers ranked pretty well, I think. And I do like them, but I also do see room for improvement for sure. So I think I probably need to I have value on my team that if I find the right deals with certain people, I could make my team even better, I think. So I think I probably should try to look to do something like that if I want to maintain, a lead in this kind of metric.
All right. Should we actually let Dev go off so that we can kind of give him a farewell from the podcast here, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dev, thank you for joining. What a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Man.
Yeah, check him out. What is your Twitter handle here? We got in trouble last week for not giving that. I don't think you have one. Either way.
Yeah. I don't have a Twitter handle. Send me money at my Venmo.
He's wheeling and dealing. He's Dev. He's Dev. He's the GM Supreme. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure, man.
Of course. Appreciate you boys having me on. Have a good night.
Good to see you, man. Talk to you later.
Yep.
Devin Gaines, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. All right. What a guest, man. What a guest. Always a pleasure for someone to come on. Knowledgeable of fantasy, aggressive manager, creating controversy, creating storylines, and creating good content tonight, Kirk.
Certainly better than some other guests we've had. Not going to name names. Hack. And also better than Will, obviously.
Dude, I will say, looking back at not to throw some stones at Sommer, but he had no energy. And I get that he's working like 9 to 5, working up at 5 a.m. His Wi-Fi was terrible. His cell phone was going off constantly during the thing. And what did I already say? His internet was awful. And he was exhausted. I mean, it was a terrible combination. Kirk, you and I were dying laughing at one point because in the middle of him giving, like, he's actually talking, it's like ding, 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 ding. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, that was really funny though. Maybe we'll have him on when he's a little bit more alert next time. He did seem pretty exhausted. He had some good points. I don't want to go too down, obviously.
No. I mean, preference it by saying he obviously we were grateful that he joined the show and that he had plenty of good things to say. But yeah, maybe have him on. And also, I think we should make a compilation at some point of like the best moments on the pod.
We might have to do that. We didn't get into marquee matchups this week. I don't think we really missed out too much. Kind of in the middle of the season, maybe not as exciting. One thing I wanted to point out though, John, which I noticed this week is the addition of a 17th regular season game adds a 14th regular season game to the fantasy league, which means you play one team from the other division twice.
Oh, good point.
I don't know who it is for everyone, but I was rather intrigued to see that my twice a year is the Sheriff. I get the Sheriff.
Really?
So it's kind of cool. They're kind of my rival in the other division. I think we should maybe kind of set that up in the future. Obviously, we'll leave it as it is this year. I'm not going to mess with it. But in the future, we might want to say, like, got a division, an ultra division rival you play twice a year. Kind of fun.
That is fun, dude. That's a really good catch, Kirk. I didn't know that actually was the case. Very cool.
Yeah. So 10 teams, you play one team on the other side twice. Kind of fun. Anyway, you want to walk us off here?
Yes.
This has been the Commish Dish episode. What episode is this? 5?
Episode 5.
Episode 5.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
All right.
I think that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Go!